So the more we learn about Ron DeSantis's Martha's Vineyard immigrant stunt, the more we realize it was certainly immoral. It was certainly unethical. It was certainly a waste of Florida taxpayer money to send immigrants that were in Texas to an island off the coast of Massachusetts. Those things we all know. We know that it was dishonest because we have now learned that the immigrants were indeed enticed with false promises of all sorts of goodies at the end of the rainbow, for lack of a better term. But now there's a new question. And as often is the case with the very people who claim that they are all about law enforcement and due process and doing everything correctly and law and order, or law and auto, as Donald Trump has said before, it may not have been legal either. And there is a very, very good article in NPR about this on npr.org by Valerie Crowder. And I'm going to tell you some of the key points here that are now in question about whether this was legal or could it have been illegal human trafficking. So the first aspect to this is that Ron DeSantis described the flights on which the immigrants were taken to Martha's Vineyard as voluntary when he was speaking at a press conference on Friday. It appears that that was a lie. Immigration law experts say that actually what happened was the trafficking of migrants. When you lie to people to induce them to come somewhere to the US or whatever in order for something that is not true, you are participating in what is functionally speaking the same type of trafficking where young girls are tricked into going wherever with the promises of whatever it is they're promised, and then they're actually forced into prostitution, as an example. The dynamic is exactly the same. And we've now learned that these immigrants were told, you're going to be flown to Boston. They weren't. They were flown to Martha's Vineyard. You'll get expedited work papers, which was not actually what was waiting for them in Martha's Vineyard. And instead, what happened was churches and shelters and aid groups, as NPR writes, did the best to accommodate them on an island with an extraordinarily low population and very limited resources. Now, then we heard from a Tallahassee-based immigration attorney, Elizabeth Ricci, also quoted in this NPR article, who says there is a good faith argument to be made that when you lure migrants onto planes with false promises of jobs, you are making them victims of fraudulent human trafficking. Think of that. That is what the governor of Florida has potentially engaged in here. They were told, oh, you might, you're going to get this, you're going to get that. Now, here's the unbelievable part. If indeed these individuals are determined to have been the victims of fraud and human trafficking, they could automatically qualify for visas here in the United States. What Ron DeSantis may have illegally done could, we don't know yet, actually genuinely expedite these individuals to legal status here in the United States. Ricci explained, quote, an enticement like that, regardless of whether you sign a waiver, is fraud. And that's part of the definition of human trafficking. I think that everybody on those planes has a case to legalize as a direct result of being transported by the governor. Republicans will do illegal things. And if they get arrested or prosecuted, they will claim they are merely political prisoners, that they're being treated unfairly. This is what happened after the January 6th riots. The January 6th rioters, and there were hundreds of them, I think the number's up to 700 or 800, although it may even be over 1,000. They were acting criminally. And then once the law caught up with them, the claims started to be made of, well, they're not being given the right food in jail. They're being held unfairly in jail. Pretrial detention is unfair. These are victims of politics. They're being punished because of their opinion about an election. This is the move. So without a doubt, if the law starts to catch up to DeSantis and whoever else for this absurd stunt, mark my words, and you know this, I don't have to convince you of this, they will claim they are actually the victims, the people who did this, who were just trying to prove a point. Now, one other thing. There are right-wingers who think they're being really slick by saying something like the following. And there's versions of this floating around, you know? All you northern liberals talk about Texas and Florida and Arizona should just accept hundreds of thousands of migrants. And it's very easy to say from Vermont or from Massachusetts or whatever, but as soon as 50 people get to Martha's Vineyard, they are immediately deported out. Multiple things going on here. First of all, it's not a deportation when you're just flown from one state to another. That's number one. Number two, the intent of these immigrants was not to be in Martha's Vineyard. Martha's Vineyard is tiny. There's very few jobs. It's a very small economy, and it's a very seasonal economy because of tourism. And we're heading into fall and then winter, which is low season in Martha's Vineyard. There's not the real opportunity for any jobs there. There's extraordinarily limited housing, etc. So there's really not the hypocrisy that the right wants to point out. Furthermore, they were lied to in so getting to Martha's Vineyard. And as I mentioned, it was not their intent. So this hypocrisy that the right is trying to expose in talking about the Martha's Vineyard thing, it's a joke. And we shouldn't allow them to turn that around because it just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. One of our longtime sponsors is Munk Pack, offering low-sugar, plant-based, keto-friendly bars. I love these. They are the perfect snack for anyone trying to eat better or cutting back on sugar and carbs without sacrificing taste. Munk Pack offers granola bars and nut and seed bars, each with only 1 gram of sugar or less, 2 to 3 net carbs, and 150 calories or less. I'm a big fan of the macadamia white chocolate nut and seed bar. Great combination of sweet, salty, chewy, and crunchy. And there's under 1 gram of sugar. They come in other awesome flavors like sea salt dark chocolate, coconut cocoa chip, and caramel sea salt. Munk Pack is great if you're doing keto. I don't do keto, but Munk Pack is just great for anyone who wants something delicious on the go without the sugar. And my audience gets 20% off your first order at monkpack.com when you use the coupon code PACMAN at checkout. The link is down below.